From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios, that is Sean Fazan. Welcome in, and make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review. We got that brand new YouTube channel out. We're doing numbers today, and of course, you guys can find our audio as well wherever you find your podcast. Sean Fazan, how's it going today? It's draft week, brother.
Draft week is here. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I certainly did. It was a good weekend in the city. It really was a good weekend. It had great weather all weekend long. Fantastic. I know the Zerg had, from what I understand, some pretty big numbers in terms of their attendance. So it was a great day to be outside in the city and in the surrounding areas of New Orleans, and I was certainly one of them. But the calendar has now turned to this Monday morning. Again, like you said, be sure to rate, review, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. The Fox 8 Overtime YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts audio-wise as well. So, it is draft week. We know that. It's a fun week.
It's
a fun week, and the amount of time between now and the actual first round, you're going to hear a lot of stuff popping, a lot of curveballs, a lot of new information that'll come to light, basically, because now draft boards are set. Draft boards are set, and there's going to be some loose lips around the NFL. They're going to talk to their people, and all of a sudden, that's when the leaks come out, because now it's a little more concrete, because the fluidity of the situation and the grades and everything else, that's all been done. It's all done. There are no more grades. There's no more grading. The grading process is complete. They'll start handing them out here once draft night comes around. But point of today, well, it's simple. We know the Saints trade when it comes to the draft. We also know when they trade, it's in one direction. It's to trade up. They haven't traded down in a really, really, really long time. And they haven't just traded up. They've done it basically every year since, for a long time. But for the purposes of this, we're going to go back all the way to 2016, because it's one thing to trade up, and you can have your views whether you like the trade up or you prefer the trade down, the actual method. But all that really matters is, who do you get when you trade up, and did that player become a difference maker? And again, we're going to go back to 2016. 2015, Ireland was hired, but it was a little late in the process. So while he was here, I'm not necessarily counting that as his first one. I'm going 2016 because he really is the guy in terms of the current regime. They always traded up, even before him. But the current regime with Ireland, I think it's important to take a look at who they've approached, who they've traded up for, and let's just look at the players that it has provided the New Orleans Saints. The first one is easy. We're going to start last year. 2022, the massive blockbuster trade to get the Eagles' 16th and 19th overall selection. So that in and of itself involves a trade up, because you're adding picks. I know they had 8, you had 18, so you traded 18, you get 16 and 19, you traded next year's one, right, which would be this year's one. So I'm counting both of these as the trade up, because in Chris Olave's case, it was a double trade up, because you got the 16th pick and you moved up again with Washington to go and get Chris Olave, who I think is going to have a bright future with this organization. Thought he had a great rookie year.
Yep.
I didn't think the moment was too big for him, but I thought it was perfect in this sense that it wasn't perfect. Because there's a lot of very good, but there's still some very tangible things that he could take into the offseason and work on, to where you can see him getting much better if he works on a few things. Number one, he's got to get probably a little bit bigger, got to gain some weight. Yeah, 2, got to get a little better off the jam. And 3, got to get better with run after catch. But I still think that trade, right now, it's early, but right now I like that trade. I like who we got. The other one, Trevor Penning. Now, Trevor Penning was with the initial trade to get the 19th overall selection. They stayed at 19. They got Trevor Penning. I'm calling this a trade up. Book still, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, the jury's still out on Trevor Penning.
Trevor Penning. I've watched a lot of him. The games he played, he got hurt twice. That's unfortunate. Maybe it's a red flag, maybe not. Depends on if you view it as a body deficiency or a freak football deficiency. I think the Saints are banking on the latter because he's a first-round pick, obviously. But if you really watched him, especially when it came to run blocking, that guy played whistle to whistle, and I mean buried people when he got his hands on you. If he was able to get the right pad level and the right hand grip and was able to really, I mean, talk about pile drive guys. I'm thinking of the Cleveland game. I think I highlighted it on a film study where he really stood out. But there is some concerns. They want him to play left tackle. I have expressed my lateral, my concerns about his lateral movement because when you watch him and then you watch Ramczyk and the lateral movement and how light Ramczyk is on his feet despite being 310, whereas when you watch Penning, he's a little more heavy-footed, and he's a little bit bigger at 6'7", 330. He's huge. I mean, the guy is huge. He makes big guys look small. That, to me, is something to watch to see if he's gotten developed, because if that does not develop, he's going to get kicked inside. Yeah. I'm telling you that's happening. If he cannot do it at left tackle, he's going inside. He's not flipping to right. He's going to go inside because of his style of play and what he's best at as right now as a run blocker. But we'll see. So the jury's still out on that. 2021, they traded day two third-round picks to move up to get Paulson Adebo, who started right away. Had a decent rookie year. I know some were disappointed in his second year. He was really banged up. But I think even with that and where they stand, I think you could say he wasn't quite as good his second year than he was his first year. But I'm looking for a bounce-back year out of him. Also, day 3, they flipped a 6 and a 7 to go up and get Landon Young, who's a valuable reserve guy, a depth piece along the offensive line. I actually like that pick, and that's really, you didn't really sacrifice much to go up and get Landon Young. 2020, this is probably this is a situation you want to avoid. Okay, 2020 draft. Okay, if you recall, on that second day, this was that weird draft. Were you here yet?
No. I got here.
We were all watching this was the remote draft where, social distancing. We were here, but we were like spread out.
Yeah.
But it was weird. Day 2, obviously, round 1 they picked Cesar Ruiz. They didn't trade up to get him. But in round 3, they traded a third and a future third to go up and get Zach Bond, who has not panned out because he was an edge pass rusher, an undersized edge pass rusher at Wisconsin that they tried to convert to an off-the-ball linebacker. Now he plays a little Sam linebacker now, but point being, this is why the Saints don't draft those kind of undersized pass rushers, because they try to convert him, and it never works out. He's a special teams guy. He had his moments here and there, but he should be much further developed than he is, and he is not because of the position switch. So that's a bad one. Same round. They traded a 4th, a 6th, and 2 7ths to go up and get Adam Troutman. I remember it like it was yesterday because we all thought the night was over, and then all of a sudden, right as we were about to start doing Zooms, one of the Saints personnel tells us over the Zoom, the Saints just traded up to get Adam Troutman. We all had to reshuffle the deck a little bit and get our reports going. That's a 4, a 6, and 2 7s. They traded the rest of their draft to go up and get Adam Troutman, who I think has had a little more development than Zach Bond, but I think we could all agree he has not progressed in the manner which they thought he would at this time. So, and then the draft's just about to end. Everyone's kind of, getting ready for the undrafted stuff. Then out of nowhere, the Saints trade a future 6 to go into the 7th round of the draft to draft Tommy Stevens, the quote-unquote next Taysom. He had the position flexibility to jump in front of Carolina. So that was the rumor at the time that he was going to sign with Carolina. So we jumped in front of him so he could draft him in the 7th round. It was a little bit of I think Jeff Duncan reported this. It was a little bit of Sean Payton pettiness at the time, but he didn't make the roster. So those 3 trade-ups to me were 3 that did not work out. Moving on. 2019. They traded their 2 and 6 and a future 2 to go up and get Eric McCoy. Eric McCoy has been a day 1 starter.
Yep.
I'm here to tell you, I'm fine with that trade, even with the future too, if that's even accurate. I got to double check on that. But they did move up to get him.
Yeah.
But they also moved up, flipped 2 fourths because when they moved up to get McCoy, they were able to get a 4th round back. So they took 2 fours and went up in the 4th round and got C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who obviously, where did he end up again? I'm drawing a blank
Philly,
right now.
and now he's with the Lions.
Now he's with the Lions. But point being, he led the NFL in interceptions. That trade for what you spent was worth it.
Yeah, yeah. And he missed like 4 or 5 games last season, and he still led them in interceptions. But anyway,
exactly. That trade was worth it.
Yeah.
2018 Marcus Davenport, their 1st round pick, a 5th round pick, and a future 1, I believe it was. I know they traded a future 1 to go up from 27 to 14 to get Marcus Davenport. Okay, that to me is a good trade. Not good in terms of the what you got out of it. It's a good parameter in terms of where the Saints currently stand at 29, and if they wanted to go all the way up to the teens, what you'd have to pay. A future 1, it looks like a 5 right here as well I have written down. To go from 27 to 14, the Saints are at 29.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the distance, you see what the cost. That's why I've told you guys, A, I don't think they're doing it, but B, I don't like the idea of using the future 1, and that's why I also said I've used that 15th pick as my kind of line. Once they get out of the top 15, then the phone starts ringing, in my opinion, because before that, you're paying too much. But Marcus Davenport, he was a tease. He had 1 good year where he had like 9 sacks, but he was always injured, never quite materialized. And by the end of last year, Carl Granderson was playing over him. That's just the way it went. Now he's with the Minnesota Vikings. 2017, you traded your 3rd round and a future 2 to go up and get Alvin Kamara. All right. That was worth it. He's been, look, I know he's got some issues off the field right now, but he was an immediate Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. At times, he's been the offense. You can't argue with the results.
No, not at all.
Of Alvin Kamara. 2016, they flipped a 3rd and a 4 to go up and get Von Bell, who got better after he left the Saints, but by his last year here, he was really playing good ball. Mm-hmm. And then they traded, which looks like did one of the future things. It was day 3 when they moved up and got David Onyemata, who hung around through 2 contracts. Obviously, now he's gone to Atlanta. But at the time, what you got out of that player versus what you could have gotten with those picks, I think it was worth it. So let's go back through it because I know I've kind of gone through a lot here. Absolutely. So let's just read the names out. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
2022, who do you have?
Chris Olave and Trevor Penning.
2021.
Paulson Adebo and Landon Young.
2020.
Zach Bond, Adam Troutman, Tommy Stevens.
2019.
Eric McCoy and C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
2018.
Marcus Davenport.
2017.
Alvin Kamara.
2016.
Von Bell and David Onyemata.
All right, now we're going to go through each one and say yes or no, or whether it was worth it. Why don't we hold off on 2022?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adebo.
Yes.
I say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Landon Young.
Yes.
I say yes. 2020. Zach Bond. No.
No.
Adam Troutman.
No.
No. Tommy Stevens.
No.
No. 2019. Eric McCoy.
Yes.
Yes.
C.J.
Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
Yes. Davenport. I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Because it was a future 1. I'm going to say ultimately the Davenport trade was not worth it. 17. Kamara.
Yes.
Yes. Bell. Von Bell. I say yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we'll score that one.
Yeah.
No for you, yes for me.
Yeah.
David Onyemata, I say yes because none of us heard of that guy when he was drafted.
No.
Absolutely none of us. So
he was productive.
Let me see your pin there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. 1, 2, 3, 4 no's, and 2 to be determined with Olave and Penning.
Mm-hmm.
My point to you is this. Even if you don't like the trade-up philosophy, and I'm not always a fan of it, depending on what you give up and what you get back and who you get. But you can't if you're the Saints, you have to understand why they do it. And that is, like I said before, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses and 4 no's. So out of 11, so 11 of the last 13 trade ups.
Yeah.
That with seven good, 4 bad. That's about 60%, 62% hit rate on what they do. That's why they do it, folks. That's why they do it. They feel like it nets a positive result. Now, what I didn't do was tell you who those players ended up being that they traded with those picks and who they could have been or who those teams ended up picking, because a lot of times that pick gets retraded. It's crazy, and you really got to follow the path there. But I think for the Saints' purposes, again, I don't love it. I didn't like it when they did it in 2018. Again, we're still on the fence with 2022. The 2 years they went future one. But when you talk about some of these other trade-ups, 2020 was a disaster. That was a disaster. So that whole group, you could take them off the table. But 2021, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, I think it's worked out. I think it's been more positive than negative.
I agree. I mean, it's a net positive. I mean, just as on the side, like I was just calculating, obviously 2022 notwithstanding, how many guys are still on the roster from these drafts. Obviously, I put a little asterisk next to each one. Von Bell, Onyemata not here. Davenport not here. CJGJ not here. Tommy Stevens not here. I mean, these guys, a couple of those guys are guys that weren't great here, went on to be good somewhere else. Maybe that could be the case for Marcus Davenport. Maybe, CJGJ, we obviously saw what he did in Philly. So these guys are not failures by any stretch of the imagination.
Here's the thing. I think where you pick a player, what you gave up, factors into the equation. That's why CJGJ going off and doing great things doesn't bother me, because what you actually spent to get him here where he was productive, to me, made that pick worth it. I can understand the Von Bell situation, but I remember distinctly his last year here being, okay, yeah, this he clearly had shown demonstrratable growth there. Look, Davenport trade just didn't work out because you gave up a lot to go up and it didn't necessarily hit. But they've done that future pick a couple of times, and it has netted some good players. Let's see who got to a second contract. Onyemata got to a second contract. Kamara got to a second contract. McCoy got to a second contract. And then I guess we can't really get on to the 2020, 2021, 2022 guys. So that's probably a little bit of an unfair exercise there. But Davenport did not get to the second contract, nor did C.J. Gardner-Johnson or Von Bell. We don't know if that was the market dictated that, or if the Saints were just done with them. I'm
still disappointed with the return for the trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, especially how he popped off for the Eagles last season.
What they ended up getting, I could see that in the immediate, and as we sit here now, based off what C.J. became. I can see that argument, but again, I go back to what the original price paid wasn't that much, and you didn't get much back in return, but you didn't pay that much to get him to begin with.
Exactly.
And I don't think the Saints defense, especially the pass defense, suffered as much as people thought it would have.
No.
And as much as I still think people have it in their head that they were a disaster pass defense last year. They were top 3 pass defense last year. Yeah. So I'm still calling that a win for the Saints.
I agree.
So, yeah, I figured it was pretty good to go down memory lane here just to give a quick, brief history lesson off of it's not just trading up, it's who you get. And when you add up who you get over time, it's a pretty big sample size here. Has it skewed in one direction versus, did this player work out? Did they not work out? And I think, like I said before, I think for the most part, it has worked out. And a lot of it is, I look at Onyemata, that was a day 3. Von Bell, day 2. Kamara, day 2. Okay, so day 1 was Davenport. For a lot of them, it was more of a day 2, day 3 trades.
Yeah.
It wasn't, obviously last year, notwithstanding with the big first-round move. So really only 2 of them with 18 and 22 within the last, few years. So, but I still think it's a possibility they trade up in the first round this year. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed that history lesson, because I think it's important to remember why it's done, and you don't just do it just to do it. You have a method if it's proven successful. And I think even an objective, even if you weren't a Saints fan, if you just looked at these players and knew anything about the Saints, you would say they have added in a positive way to the entirety of the organization.
Absolutely. And so, obviously, reiterating, it is draft week. So be excited for that. We're going to be discussing a lot of Saints draft possibilities as we approach Thursday night. So for Sean Fazan, I'm Vasilios. Remember to rate, subscribe, like, review. Check out the YouTube page, and you can find our audio wherever you listen to your podcast. This has been Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. We'll talk to you guys next time.